Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Dear viewers, we are here with a program, Islam in the Contemporary World, and today's discussion of topic is very interesting. The concept of law and justice in Islam and in the Western world. For this, we have invited two guest speakers who will be participating with us. The first honorable guest for the program is Justice Retired Nasir Aslam Zahid. He is a former Chief Justice of Sindh High Court, Pakistan, and Justice of Supreme Court of Pakistan, and he played a vital role for the promotion of law in the community. And he is also contributing as a scholar in the community, not only in Pakistan, he is outside of Pakistan, and naturally he is here, and we welcome Justice Nasir Aslam Zahid in our program. Sir, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Our second guest is a well-known academic personality. He is teaching law at the university, and he is a well-known professor of Islamic jurisprudence and Islamic thought, and he is known for his contribution in legal world, the world of law. Naturally, he contributed for Islamic law as well as for the Western law. Professor Akmal Waseem, and we hope that you would enjoy your stay with us, and you would enjoy today's conceptual as well as practical subject of the concept of law and justice in Islam and in the Western world. Dear viewers, you must be watching what is going on. Naturally, it is a serious issue, and the subject is very interesting. For this, we would begin with our first guest, Justice Nasir Aslam Zahid. Sir, how would you define law and justice?
See, first of all, I think you should keep in mind that when ordinarily people talk about law and justice, they are talking about the court system, the judiciary, the cases which are pending in courts, how long does it take. The basic, in my view, the basic difference between the Islamic concept of justice in law and the Islamic concept of justice in law in the West, or as it is practiced in even Muslim countries, is that law is, as far as the concept of law in Islam is concerned, it is comprehensive in its meaning, in the sense that justice is not only referred to when you are talking about cases in courts. It is in every sphere, in every aspect of the life of a person.
Exactly.
So whether he is a trader or he is a neighbor, he is dealing with his family members, the husband and wife relationship, every relationship, Islam, when it talks about justice, it is talking about fair treatment to the persons who are involved. But in the West, when we talk about law and justice, we are apparently talking about the law and the justice, and this aspect of morality is not there, which is, of course, the basis of law and justice in the Islamic principles of law. And therefore, I would say that the basic difference between the Western concept and the Islamic concept, I'm not talking of the present concept of law and justice in different Muslim countries. I'm talking strictly in the Islamic concept. The basic difference is that the morality, as far as the law and justice is concerned, is the basis of Islamic concept of law and justice, which is not there. And the other difference which I have noted is that when a case comes up before a court and it is to be decided, then the judge who is sitting and he is deciding the case, he will decide the case on the basis of what is known as the adversarial system. That is, there are two adversaries, and either one wins or the other wins. This is the basic concept as far as the courts are concerned and the law that is applied there. On the other hand, as far as the Islamic concept is concerned, it is not confined to the dispute between one and the other. It is not necessary that there should be a winner and there should be a loser, which is the concept in the West. But it talks about the inquisitorial basis, that you make an inquiry. I will just give a small example. Suppose there is a dispute between a father and a mother over a child. When the case goes in the court has to decide whether the father is entitled to the custody or the mother is entitled to custody. So you look at the interest of these two. But if it comes up before a judge who has to apply Islamic principles of the concepts of justice and law, then he would also be inquiring into the rights and liabilities and the protection of the child itself. The child also matters in these matters. What is going to happen? Or take another case. Suppose you can give a punishment up to 7 years in an offense. There are many offenses for which the punishment, specific punishment, is not specified, but it is said that it could be up to 7 years. So a judge can give 2 years, a judge can give 3 years, he can give 4 years and 5 years. If you are sitting as a judge who applies the Islamic concept of justice, he will try to find out, suppose I were to give 7 years, what is going to happen to his family? He will find out what is the source of income of the family, whether the children will suffer or not. So there you see that inquiry apparently is not made when a decision is taken on the Western concept of law and justice.
It means that Islamic law is more comprehensive because it deals with the nature of human being and psychology of humanity, and humanity is first consideration. So really it's more comprehensive, and I think we would continue with this. So Professor Akmal Waseem, what do you think about law and justice?
Well, actually, as Justice Nasir Zahid Sahib has just stated, that the Islamic concept of law and justice is primarily and inherently based on the concepts of morality. Unlike that, what has happened is in the West that, yes, to a certain extent, West does acknowledge, recognize, and even involve morality in its legal system. And we can cite the examples of, especially that of Canada, and to some extent that of Europe and America. But America is in, again, a system where which keeps on, I would say, moving between utilitarian aspect and the moral aspect. So we cannot say that America is wholly based on the moral aspect.
So you mean while you refer the theory of utilitarianism, so the Bentham's theory.
Precisely.
So naturally you refer to Bentham's theory. So Bentham's theory of utilitarianism is solely a reference to the society and individual. So the individualism is more important in law or in the community in American society. So while you see that aspect, the utilitarianism, so is there any correlation between utilitarianism or the legal theories of the contemporary world?
Very much so. I would agree with you, Doctor. Very much so. There is a direct nexus now. In fact, the later developments, what we call the postmodern development in the West, we see that morality is now taking the back seat.
Professor Akmal Waseem, really it's a very interesting discussion, but we have to go for a short break. Dear viewers, we are continuing with this discussion regarding law and justice. So please stay with us. We are coming back. Welcome back in our program Islam in the Contemporary World, and today's topic of discussion is law and justice. What is law what is justice? For this, we are continuing with Professor Akmal Waseem. Please.
Well, as I was saying that today it's the economic analysis of law which is playing the major role in our understanding and the study of law at the substantive level. However, coming back to the main question, you see, that is Islam. Islam, as Justice Saab also said, and I also subscribe to that viewpoint, that Islam is primarily based on the morality. And when we talk about morality, I would like to make one distinction very clear. That distinction is that we should not confuse social morality with the term morality. Social morality is something which is too superfluous. It cannot be said to be universal. It can never be said to be permanent. It's always temporary. While when we talk about morality, we are talking about certain immutable universal principles which are unalterable. For example, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not kill. These are those examples of what we call the internal morality.
How about the concept of Islamic morality and its merger after, like, while we see the Muslim jurists, Nu'man bin Sabit al-Zuti, Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah ta'ala, Qazi Shureh, and we see Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmed bin Hanbal, and Muhammad al-Shibani, Qasi Abu Yusuf. Later on, we see so many Muslim jurists who have explored new dimensions in Islamic law and Islamic Sharia, the cosmic law and interpretation of law according to Quran and Sunnah. For that, there is a school of thought which says that the main reason for the downfall of Muslim Ummah is that we gave up the basic principles of legal morality in Islam. So the system which was not continued by the Muslim community and the Muslim responsible persons who were responsible for making laws and introducing these laws to the community for the betterment of the community. So you think that even today's contemporary Muslim states have the same problem, or interpretation of law according to morality, or what kind of suggestion would be given by you?
Well, Doctor, I would very much like to put on record my own view on this, and that is that you've named so many well-recognized scholars and authorities who have worked on this particular aspect of Islamic concept of law and justice. Today's Islamic world is far removed, in my humble view, is far removed from the basic and the fundamentals of Islam. Why is that? I find it that we are more concerned, and when I say we, I mean the entire Muslim society ranges right from that coast of Atlantic right up to Indonesia. I don't make any differentiation anyway, no discrimination at all.
It is Ummah.
It is the Ummah which I refer to as.
And Quran says, "Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nas ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar." There must be a group of people. Group doesn't mean that any sort of sectarian group or any group based on politics. There must be a linkage program among them based on La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.
And I would be reverting back to your the recent statement you just made after I've completed this part. What has happened is that there was a struggle going on, and Islam I think is one of the most comprehensive systems which allowed for criticism in its earlier days. Now that was a period when we were having big debates taking place, dialogues taking place. Like at one point we had Ghazali at one side.
Yeah.
We had Ibn Arabi. We had Ibn Rushd. Ibn Arabi and Ibn Rushd, and thereafter they were followed by Hamadani, very famous, who came up with the concept of Shahadatul Wujud and Wahdatul Wujud, etc., which were all, at that point, they were all being taken up. But the tragedy of the matter was that they were all considered to be neo-Aristotelian thinkers. And at that point, the way the body politic of Islam, of the Muslim society, I'm sorry I can't call it Islam, but I call it the Muslim society, as it was evolving, did not allow for critical thought. That was the point which became the bane of the Muslim society and the Muslim state. That critical thought process, once it was over, then we have been sent into that one lane drive, and that's called the taqleed. Whatever work has been done in morality is also unfortunately based on taqleed.
Yeah, and I must add up one sentence here for the record, that the names which you referred during discussion, they are also known people from metaphysical sciences.
Yes.
So tasawwuf. And when you say Muhyiddin ibn Arabi and his school of thought, so this Ibn Arabi and later on the chains of metaphysics or Sufism, they were very much concerned about law of morality, because the Sufism also a part of law of morality, and its offshoot, while we see that these Sufi or the people from Tasawwuf or the metaphysics, they support that the law of obedience must be carried out, and the murshid, the spiritual leader or the spiritual guide, is the one to whom he should be given proper respect in the community. And nowadays people, they don't care about tasawwuf. That's why we are a bit away from ethics or sort of taqleed or some other stuff. I don't know, because you would be the person who would further elaborate.
Yes, I will just give a brief outline on that,
exactly.
And then I'll leave the rest for Justice Nasir Zahid,
yeah.
Because he is the person who can actually tell you as to how on the ground this works, through his judgments and through other experiences which he has. Now, coming to the aspect, what has happened is that when we talk about morality, we must look at Islam in itself. Islam is not something which is there, for example, as an institution. What really brings out that curiosity in me is, in almost every other religion, for whatever sin one commits, there is always an intermediary through which the sins are confessed to, and then a request is made
yeah, it is
to Allah Ta'ala
yeah.
for His forgiveness. Like that, Islam does not conceive of any such institutions. It's a direct relationship between Allah and His creature. And Tawbah is something which is, I think, the most blessed of the gifts of Allah to the Muslims.
So it means it is between Abd and Ma'bud, creator and creation.
Yes. Now, moving on from there are two areas which we must look at. One is Huququllah, and the other is Huququl Ibad. When the Muslims had conquered Makkah. Makkah was a place from where our Holy Prophet had to flee. He had to do the Hijrat along with his most beloved of his companions, Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, and of course with all his family, his companions, his friends, everyone had to leave. Not only that, our Holy Prophet had suffered worst at the hands of the Makkans. But when the day of victory came, the command was, every one of you is safe who finds place in the Haram Sharif. Every one of you is safe who stays within his house. Every one of you is safe who, the worst enemy of our Holy Prophet, was also given that blessed place. if a person goes and hides in his house, he would be safe. This, in my humble view, is what Hukukul Ibad is when we talk about Islam.
Dear viewers, there is a short break and we have to go for a break. Naturally, we will come back with a request that please stay with us. We are discussing the subject of the concept of law and justice in Islam and in the Western world. Welcome back in our program Islam in the Contemporary World, and today's topic of discussion is about law and justice in Islam and in the Western world. We are discussing about the same issue, the same topic, and luckily we have a well-known personality who is noted for his legal decisions as well as legal teachings. Justice Sahab, you're enjoying this
Yes.
sort of discussion?
It's always a pleasure to hear Professor Akmal Waseem. I don't get many opportunities in the law school, but in these programs, you see, he comes out. You see, there you are confined to
You're welcome. Yeah. So coming back to the point,
Yes.
What do you say for the contemporary problems or contemporary issues of Muslim Ummah? Is it because of ignorance, because of illiteracy, or sort of some lack of communication among different cultures of Muslims, or lack of interest in legal learning or Quran and Sunnah, or the conceptual subject of law, which is naturally a supreme law in the world adopted by international law or the UNO, and the contemporary Muslim states are following municipal law as well as Islamic law simultaneously. So what do you think, and how do you see this issue?
You see, I would say that whatever you are saying, all these factors that you have mentioned, I think all of them have played a role in the Ummah going down as far as you look at any area. You look at science, you look at arts, you look at law, you look at justice. You find that Ummah, with perhaps one or two exceptions, you find that we have not progressed at all. And the basic difficulty...
We means Muslim Ummah.
Yes, we are. When we say we,
because Muslim Ummah is not only in Pakistan.
No.
It is
We are not
the
talking
world.
about Pakistan as in particular. We are talking about the entire
Exactly.
Muslim Ummah, in which you have all the countries, the Arab countries, the non-Arab countries. Everyone is included. See, when as pointed out by Professor Akmal Waseem, the earlier period of Islam was the golden period. And somehow, for reasons given by him and for other reasons, we have drifted away. There are different factors. But today what is happening is that as far as these Muslim countries are concerned, the Ummah is concerned, you hardly find any country which has a true democracy working. And you find very few countries where the rule of law is in operation. When I talk about rule of law, I mean rule of law where law is applied not in its strict sense that there are rules and the rules are technically followed. No, law and justice means that there is a law which is based on morality, principles of morality, and that when the law is enforced, it is enforced with justice.
So you think mostly people say that law is blind, or it doesn't see or doesn't consider circumstances or needs or requirements of the community, while if someone commits this, then legally he would be dealt according to law. So you think that there are some consideration?
This concept that the law is blind is a Western concept.
Okay.
But that has also undergone a little change. And I always mentioned, you see, you have these goddesses of justice and goddesses of so and so. So the goddess of justice is Themis. And if you go to London, perhaps on the Crown Court or some court, there is the statue of Themis, the goddess of justice, and she's blindfolded. The impression given is that justice is blind. If anyone comes before you, he will, whether he is rich or poor, whether he is a woman or a man coming from a black or brown or white, he will be dealt with accordingly.
But
this is not the concept,
yeah.
Islamic concept of justice.
But in Islam, I think that Islam has given two types of shades for the law. One is to be rigid. In what sense? To be rigid, to follow Quranic law, to follow the life of Holy Prophet ﷺ in the community, and there is no change, because Quran says, "La tabdila li kalimatillah." There is no change for the orders and commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But while there is consideration of human being, law allows, and law is flexible within the parameter of legal requirements and legal interpretation and legal needs, and the Qadri, the justice, would consider what are the environmental witnesses for these situational change. So you think that today's major problem in the Muslim community or the Muslim communities is that we have given up or deviated from the actual sense of Islamic Sharia, the cosmic law?
Yes, I think this is also correct, and I may continue what I was saying earlier. See, when a case comes up or any decision has to be taken by any authority, then you can do it in two ways. Number one, you strictly follow the letter of the law and decide whatever, whether you are a judge or whether you are some authority, whether you are the controller of imports and exports, whether you have to give it to a license, and then you decide according to special letter of the law. And that is as far as compliance with the law is concerned. But Islam says no. You must decide a case if it deals with rights of other people. You must decide that case in accordance with law, but you must also side by side do justice in the matter.
Exactly.
Justice in accordance with law.
Exactly.
So that is an addition. In the Western concept, the concept of justice is not present in that vehemence as in Islamic law. I'll just give an example. About 10 years ago, the Canadian bar and the Canadian judiciary invited me, and I went there and I visited about 9 states. And there the Supreme Court judges told me that we had this case before us about 10 years earlier. So the case would be about somewhere in 1990 or 80s. A woman came and she said that I went to a hospital. There was no ramp. And she was on a wheelchair, so about 6 people had to pick up the wheelchair, and it about 10 or 15 stairs she had to climb and go. So she filed a petition in the Supreme Court, said this is violation of my fundamental rights.
Exactly.
And the Supreme Court then said, no, this is not a violation of fundamental rights, because everyone is treated equally, whether you are black or you are brown, whether you are lame, whether you are sick, whether you are deaf, you are mentally not sound. And they decided and dismissed her petition. Another case came up after 10 years with a similar facts, and there they said, we decided wrongly.
Oh,
yes.
They admitted.
Yes, they admitted, and they said, when you are talking about equality under the law of justice, when you are talking, because equality is the basis of law, that all persons in equal circumstances should be treated equally. And when we decided that case, we treated a person with a disability like a poor person or a woman who is weak or a child. If you treat that person in the same manner, with the same yardstick, with a person who is powerful or a person who is socially very sound or very rich socially or economically, and on the other side you have, and he has the best advocates appearing for him, and on the other side is a poor person who can't, who doesn't know what's going on. If you treat them equally, then you may be saying that justice is blind, because you don't see.
Exactly.
So the Islamic concept, then they said, we decided no, when we are talking about equality, we are talking of real equality, substantive equality. And then I answered, you are talking now of 1990, you are talking of 2000. Islam had introduced this 1500 years ago. We say, when you do justice with ihsan.
Exactly.
And then I give an example which I read, I think in Dr. Rifat Hashmi's book, and she says that suppose there is a woman and she has 8 children, and one child is mentally or physically disabled. Now the money she has for spending on the children and the time she has, she equally divides amongst all. But as far as the disabled child is concerned, she gives more time, she gives him more money, she provides him with milk and other food. Can you say that she is not doing justice? No, she is doing justice. But if you apply the principle of justice is blind and follow the goddess of Themis who is blind, then it is a violation of the law. This is one basic difference between the Islamic concept and the Western concept of justice, that when you are deciding about rights of other people, then you must do it with ihsan.
Yeah. It is not only a message, it is something more than this. And we have to follow in our lives. Justice doesn't mean that only judiciary would implement this justice in the society, or the legal institution would be responsible for this. No. It begins from me and it would be ended at me. Please stay with us. We'll be coming soon. Going for a short break. Welcome back in our program Islam in the Contemporary World, and today's topic of discussion is very interesting. It's about law and justice with reference to Islam and the Western world. Our Justice Nasir Zahid is here, and he would be talking about further aspects of law and justice.
I think before I touch upon law, I would discuss some social issues which are facing those communities. I'm not only talking about the Ummah, but also those communities which are not known as developed democracies. So I will divide this, whatever I'm going to make, whatever comments I'm going to make, with reference to those communities which are not developing countries. And as we recently went to a seminar, I and Professor Akmal Waseem, they talked about the non-rule of law states, rule of law states and the non-rule of law states. So we are talking about non-rule of law states. So when we talk about rule of law, we are not talking about as if in these countries which are developing, every country in Africa or Asia or everywhere, they will say, yes, rule of law operates. You see, rule of law does not mean that there is a law which is made by the legislature and that law is followed in letter. Unless justice is done, that is not a rule of law state. So as far as a rule of law state is concerned, we are not talking about those countries which are known as rule of law states. We are talking about we are talking about developing countries, the poor countries, which are non-rule of law states where democracies have not developed. There are a large number of social issues facing these countries, and I would say the number one on the top, of course, is poverty. The other, which is very, very important, is corruption. Corruption has seeped into our society, and the question arises that despite the fact that in every country there are anti-corruption laws, the corruption is there in all these non-rule of laws.
You think that you would include also like two categories you have mentioned, developed countries and developing countries?
And developed countries.
Yeah, developed countries and developing countries. And how about the underdeveloping countries?
These are the, when I talked about developing countries, it includes underdeveloped countries.
Okay.
So you have developed countries, like Western European countries where democracies apparently are established. The other where elections have taken place, and that's all. And they feel that now democracy is in place and the democracy has taken roots. But unless the rule of law is there, and every country in these areas say, yes, the rule of law operates in our country, but the rule of law does not operate. If the rule of law operates, then there will be no corruption, there will be no poverty. What does a common man want? You see, when we talk of justice, he's not worried about the cases which are decided at the High Court or the Supreme Court or even at the District Court level. What does he want? He wants that he should be able to earn a decent living with dignity.
Yeah, it's true.
He wants that, he expects that this is justice. Okay, when he gets out, nobody abuses him, nobody treats him improperly.
You mean,
He's
yeah.
free from terrorism, he's free from attacks, and he can go to his work, earn a decent living, and he is not disturbed. This is what he wants.
Yeah, it means respect to live in the community.
Yes, respect to life.
And who would restore this respect?
You see, as far as, first take the case of corruption. People say that corruption in these countries has seeped into the society, and it is not possible to get rid of that by ad hoc methods. But I always give the example of Hong Kong police. Hong Kong police up to the 70s was one of the most corrupt, inefficient police. More corrupt than the police in the underdeveloped or developing countries. But then it reached a stage where the society felt that we cannot take anything more. The students' demonstrations, the politicians, the news media, everyone talking about this and this and that. And there was the head of the Hong Kong police was a Britisher, and he had made billions of rupees on account of corruption as the head of the police. So they formed an international, they formed a corruption commission against corruption.
Yeah, and
then they tried, that the Britisher had run away to England. He was extradited. He was tried. He was given about 7 or 10 years in prison. After that, in a short period of time, so I'm saying that within 10 years, they were able to get rid of corruption in the police, and the entire police since then is supposed to be one of the most efficient and all. So we have examples that it can be done. And economic improvement or development, you have the example of South Korea, you have examples of other countries, Malaysia, Singapore. In one lifetime, they have become economic giants. So there's nothing, you should not be pessimistic that in these areas. What I feel is that if law and justice are applied properly in these countries, all these problems can be solved, and the governments in these countries are not doing much as far as the justice system is concerned.
Yeah,
and therefore, it is number one, of course, pressure has to be put upon the government. Justice should become a priority. It is not only in the Muslim Ummah, especially in the Muslim Ummah, where justice is mizan, I don't know how many times it has been mentioned in the Quran, mizan and adl.
Yeah.
Now it is one of the most important pillars of Islam. Now if that is not given priority in the Muslim Ummah countries, then it means that you are not following the guidance that has been given, the specific rules that have been mentioned in the Quran. Now the only thing that can be done in these countries is that the civil society, the groups who are there in the civil society, they should raise their voices, they should come out openly. And in most of these countries now, the media is more or less independent, and on account of the global village, the world becoming a global village, you can always, sitting in England or sitting in Australia, you can talk about conditions in Africa, conditions in the Asia, and therefore civil society must play its role. And I feel that the civil society is not playing that active role, and it is one of the major pressure groups. Unless and until pressure is put upon the governments in these countries who are not following the principles of Islamic justice in Muslim countries, I think nothing much can be achieved.
Yeah. Mr. Justice Nasir Aslam Zahid Sahab and Professor Akmal Waseem Sahab, that you spared your time to enlighten and to share with us. Thank you very much for your presence. So dear viewers, you must have enjoyed today's discussion. It is purely academic, but it is totally our issues, the issues of our contemporary world, the issues of Muslim Ummah, the issues of real living lives. It is not only just to talk about Islam, justice and law. What we conceived from discussion, what we understood, it is not only to hear but to be followed, to be applied in our lives. And Quran and Sunnah are the basis for our lives, to improve ourselves, to progress our lives, to be a real, genuine human being to respect for others, either they are Muslims or non-Muslims, because Islam does not create a line of demarcation between Muslim and non-Muslims, because Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, came for human being. That's why Quran says, "Inna arsalnaka shahidan wa mubashiran wa nazira," and in other ayah, Quran completely describes, "Wama arsalnaka illa rahmatan lil alamin." The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a complete blessing for human being. So let's see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us message from divine law. The divine law which has been further applied in Muslim community or the Islamic community by the Muslim Ummah and the Muslim jurists who contributed a lot for the betterment of our daily lives. We have to study Quran and Sunnah. We have to follow Quran and Sunnah, not to cherish the community or to show off before the people that we are following this. No, it is for us, for inner satisfaction, purification of heart and mind. And this is a true message of today's discussion. And I am thankful to you that you had given your time to watch this program, Islam in the Contemporary World. Thank you very much for your presence and your interest. May Allah bless you. Take care of yourself. Stay well. Allah Hafiz. Goodbye.